I've tried them all, I really have. And the only church that truly feeds the soul day in, day out is the Church of Baseball.
Well, Elliot Ness had done it, the Untouchables had won it, and Dunbar was dancing with the wolves. The postman defeated the general, while the mariner swam around that water world. We're talking Costner, tin cup to Silverado, talking Costner, Bodyguard and Fandango. Robin Hood is making the rich pay, going off the board on draft day, talking swing vote, Wyatt Earp and JFK. Okay.
Oh, welcome everyone to episode, 7?
Yeah, sure, why not?
7, and it's a special one because not only are we talking about one of the most iconic Costner performances, but we have our very first guest on the pod today. Mm-hmm. We've got my buddy Andrew Bascom. He is a podcaster, an all-around great guy. He's the host of 2 podcasts. The Retrograde Podcast breaks down video games from our childhood to see whether they hold up, just like we see whether Kevin Costner holds up.
Yep. Exactly.
And he's also the host of a sports betting podcast called Losing Money with Andrew Bascom.
A great name for a podcast, especially a podcast on betting on sports.
I feel like it's one of those ones where a television show came up with the title and they went, I don't know, I guess we'll write a TV show around this idea. It was the same thing for the podcast. I'm so happy to be on, guys. Thank you very much for having me on. The first guest, too. Oh, my goodness. And
the
what
Virgin
a movie
Voyage.
we get to do.
Yeah, there were a few people that we thought about for this one, obviously being our a big foray into what will become an oft-repeated, revisited genre of sports movies with Costner and Bull Durham in many people's eyes, perhaps the most famous sports movie that he's a part of. And so we're just so grateful to have you with us today, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, it was either this or draft day. So I'm just really pumped you chose this one.
I was tempted for draft day, but we're only doing this once a month, so it'll be like that's in 3 years.
Yeah.
By that time, the audience will be craving more Andrew Bascom. We'll have you back for draft day.
Oh, I'll be your first returning guest. That'll be great.
That's a wild movie. If Bull Durham gets like full marks for its authenticity, draft day gets full marks for just how outlandish and ridiculous it is. And yet, I mean, I'm burning material on draft day already, but the Cleveland Browns did almost that exact draft that year.
That was the year that they did that draft. And I don't want to ruin this for 3 years when I come back on, but that second team was the Buffalo Bills where they were going to choose instead of the Cleveland Browns. They were in negotiation with
Yes.
I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. And it's just one of those ones where, if I had watched that on screen, I would have been so mad. I'd have been like, damn you, fiction, making me believe in something. Get the hell out of here with this shit. But instead, we're get to do Bull Durham, possibly the baseball movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much off the top here, but I didn't play minor league baseball, but I played travel baseball. And Bull Durham is the movie that is referred to almost maybe more than any other baseball movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sports movies in general, and we'll definitely get into it during the podcast about what makes a sports movie really good. And to me, all my favorite sports movies are movies that focus around the minor leagues. There's something about the story of the minors, and just you can also buy it. It's you're not asking me to draft day believe that this crazy trade that when you know sports even just a little bit, you're like, well, this would never happen in a million years.
Major league where they just go from being just absolute garbage to going to the pennant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good example. That is, by the way, the other one I would compare things to because Major League is possibly my favorite baseball movie much like a lot of things.
Movie.
Oh, it's a great movie, but much like a lot of things where you watch it again, you're like, I love that when I was a kid. And then you watch it again, you're like, okay, except for this part, this part didn't age great. This part, that's a little offensive now. Okay, great, awesome. And there was a few of these scenes in this movie, which, by the way, there's a lot of one-to-one comparisons by that because it's a baseball movie that ends in 15 minutes of eroticism. And which is like, what happened to the baseball part of this baseball movie?
Yeah, exactly. I have so many thoughts on that.
And it's just like a slow, gradual, like stalling out down the hill of eroticism too. It's just like, and a little bit more, and we just park right into that, front porch swing where we cuddle.
Yeah. You know what you wanted this whole movie? Baseball? No, they're finally going to do it. And a long time of it. Yeah. Oh, good. Awesome. Great.
Multiple times. It's a sex montage. Which they don't come around very often, but this is.
It's long, soft, wet kisses the last 3 days.
It really, it's because it's not like aggressive X-ray stuff. It is like romantic. No, they like fall in love. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love it.
Yeah, and I we did not time this, but I was talking to someone today who's been listening, and I said, "Oh, we're recording Bull Durham tonight," and they said, "Oh, that's great because it's about that time of year when I start watching all my baseball movies. Like summer is the time to watch The Sandlot, watch Bull Durham, and of course I wish we could say we planned this because we were marketing geniuses, but of course this will be the summer of talking Costner, talking baseball movies, and it'll be great to compare because next up." We've got Field of Dreams, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
He goes back to that well right away.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, baseball? No, I'm pretty good at it. Let's do it again.
And Hollywood looks at him and goes, like, put this guy back on the mound, like, in some way, shape, or form. So.
Oh, and I'm glad they did, because the other one, too, is, and we'll reference this many, many times, he looks really good at playing baseball. This would not shock me to find out he's a very good baseball player.
That's a great
looks very natural
point, Yeah, and I think that maybe that's part of why it extends into so many other sports movies. Is it's something in his performance and it's just something as a person. He's just very believable, and I think something particularly about baseball. Like you buy it.
There's some real cojones he shows of being like, I'm a switch hitter. Crash Davis is a switch hitter. I'm gonna hit dingers left and right, and I just can.
I had to look up twice.
Because I noticed, like, his first strikeout, he's batting left. And I'm like, maybe he's not really good at hitting left. And then the other dingers he hits, like the early dingers, he's all batting right. But his record-setting dinger for the Tourists, he's batting left.
Yeah.
this guy. I know it's a movie. There's maybe some camera magic, but still.
I'm proud of him too, Cam.
Yeah.
Kevin. Oh, yeah. There's so many of those swings where you're like, oh God, he's really good at this. Like the ones, we've all, there's so many sports movies where they cut away and you can't see the face, or it's from behind, or it's slow motion, so that they're cutting away from the athletic ability of the actor. Nope, hard on his face the whole time. It's Kevin Costner. And I bet you that's like one of those things like, no, keep it right there. Keep the camera right there. I want them to see this one. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, and Tim Robbins, like, all due respect, I think you can tell he's not really a fucking major league pitcher. He doesn't really have $1 million arm, but it's not the worst I've ever seen.
No, it is definitely not the worst, but it is one of those ones where you're like, they should have, I don't know. It's not as exciting if he's like, he really knows how to pick the edges. And like, no. He's got to have a cannon of an arm. But yet he has this huge loopy wind up and you're like, okay, I don't really know. Going back to Major League, Charlie Sheen looks like he throws a baseball. And I bet you wouldn't shock me to go like, he throws it 70 miles per hour or something. Like nothing unreasonable, but like more impressive than an average person.
This is a little more like the kid from Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. And we'll see how Kevin, I think, just had to show up Tim Robbins in a different movie and be like, well, I could play pitcher better as well for Love of the Game. Where
exactly.
He's the real Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, he's bragged in interviews that like they had the radar gun on him when he was filming. I was like, I was throwing 90. And I was like, Do you really believe that, Kevin? Or was that just what some production guy was telling you?
How old was he in that movie? He's supposed to be 40-something.
I was just going to say, exactly. I'm like, he's not he's already playing the, not the washed up, what do they say, Mighty Ducks? Not a has-been, but it never was.
Never was,
yeah.
Nice.
So, and of course, when you so we'll talk a little more about this at the end, but when we talk about Tim Robbins in this role opposite Kevin Costner, because apparently the studio wanted Anthony Michael Hall.
I know, I can't believe that.
So I gotta say, like, Tim Robbins, like, I nothing against Anthony Michael Hall, he's just making a bit of a resurgence, good for him, but like, I believe Tim Robbins as this pitcher, and certainly in this character, way better choice than 80s Anthony Michael Hall.
3 years after The Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Anthony Michael Hall, opposite Kevin Costner. Like, certainly, yeah, you would have got a little more of the age difference, which I think in this movie I definitely had to look up. I was sitting watching it with Kristen, and I was like, I'm gonna look up, are they the same age, like in real life? But no, Kevin Costner is 4 years older than him, so I'm like, okay, I buy that.
It is amazing, though. We're in the age group. Since we're talking about ages, this is the one thing that I love that I got to talk about. In the 80s, you were either like now male stars of Hollywood become 60 and they look 35. Like, they look incredible.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman's still ripping.
Yeah. Like, you're still shocked by, like, whoa, wait, Tom Cruise is 55 or something insane, right?
Yeah.
In this generation, you did drop off a cliff, and that's why in this movie, Kevin Costner's 33, and Skip, he's 40, and he looks 70.
He died that year. He died the year the movie came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at his death, but, like, that's what we're talking about. You either look like Kevin Costner or you look like you're going to die that year. There's just no two differences between the two things.
Yeah. It blew my mind when that showed that he was only 40 years old.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that guy's like a 60-year-old manager. Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we should get into it.
Yeah, for you guys who don't know at home, we're talking about Bull Durham.
We've done the Coles Notes. So sometimes we go a little long, and you've gotten the good 10-minute version of the podcast.
If you don't want to hear us ramble for the next 2 hours, you can turn it off right now. 10 minutes, a lean 10 on Bull Durham. All right, for those who don't know, go watch it and then listen to this. Bull Durham is about a small-town baseball groupie who takes a different ball player from the local team under her wing and into her bed each season. This year she chooses the super talented youngster, only to find herself drawn to the veteran nearing the end of his career, played by Kevin Costner. The key players, we got Kevin Costner as Crash Davis, the veteran Crash Davis. Got Susan Sarandon playing the incredible Annie Savoy. Tim Robbins playing Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
That's why he needs a nickname.
Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch. And then we got Robert Wall rounding out the cast.
Arliss himself.
Arliss himself.
Love me some Robert Wall. The movie was written and directed by Ron Shelton, who also wrote and directed White Man Can't Jump, Tin Cup. He was himself a minor league ball player in the 70s. So 60s and 70s. He played until he was like 25, and then I think the MLB went on strike, and he was like in like his last year that he would maybe be considered a prospect, and was like, well, that's it for me. So I think there's a little bit of old Crash Davis and Ron Shelton.
Nice.
I mean he's maybe. I don't know. He wrote a lot of sports movies, and he's really good at it.
He wrote a lot, so you're going to see him you're going to get another movie of his. With
I was just going to say, I mean, we can see possibly some autobiographical material again when we get to Tin Cup later.
Yeah. He also wrote Blue Chips, which I think is a fascinating movie.
He did. Yeah, another great movie.
Yeah, so he's got the sports side down.
Yes, definitely. The movie was filmed from October to November of 1987. It was released June 15th, 1988. The budget of this movie, a lean $7 million.
Ooh.
They make that so far.
You saw returns on that.
Just using locations, minor league ballparks, a couple of interior shots, a couple of bars that probably could just be redressed as different sets.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know if North Carolina is like the most desired filming location for Hollywood. I think they could probably get a lot.
Flim, North Carolina.
Also filming in October, November, not typical baseball months. So it's not like like that rent on that minor league stadium is pretty low, I assume.
Yeah, we're not using it right now.
It had an opening weekend of $5 million. Worldwide gross $50 million. I think it didn't really have much beyond domestic. Like I don't know if it had a big release in Europe, let's say. And it's not number 19 for Costner all time, and for adjusted box office and adjusted, it's 18. So it's not close to his biggest box office hit, but I think when we talk about it, or like we've said it maybe 3 movies in a row now, that like this is when Costner really fucking made it. But I think this is just clearly all right. Costner's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, this
like
is
no more needing to prove himself. It's just like, it is.
Yeah, he walks on screen and you're like, the studio knows they have an A-lister. And of course, because he's then a guy who gets into so many genres, this is, sorry, American Flyers, this is his entry into becoming a sports movie icon as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
In playing the sport that he is most synonymous with, which is baseball. So, and that makes most sense. I'm sure I've heard you guys talk about this in the past, and it was something I want to bring up as this movie continues on, or maybe a question you could keep asking. Is this his most handsome? Like,
oh man, that's gotta that should handsome. Be a man. I think you might have just that might become the new third power ranking, and I think that one should have listener ratings. That should be crowdsourced beyond just us and the guests. But that is a damn good question.
I think it is.
It may be.
I think my argument for why it would be is because as a desirable figure. You know, he coming right next, and you know everybody loves their daddies, but he's going right into dad mode next. You know, like this is his last swinging bachelor, but he's also got the mature charisma that he carries that he doesn't have so much earlier with the Gardner Barnes because he's not mature yet. But right after this, he gets real into dad mode for a while. But Bodyguard also, Bodyguard, he's
depending if you have specific fetishes, it could be Waterworld. I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna say Kevin Costner manages, I think personally, to be his most handsome while often being sweaty and dirty. And because when you look at Waterworld, you look at Tin Cup, you look at Bull Durham, he is a sweaty, dirty guy, and when he walks into that first scene in the clubhouse, and I don't know, there's something about maybe his skin tone, the way that it just glistens when he's down in his luck, when he's a little bit of a trashy deadbeat, that he's just even more attractive at that point, I think.
I completely agree with you because at the end of the movie, well, okay, whatever. But when he has a shiner and he has a little bit of 5-day growth, I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Nobody looks better in a pair of khakis and a bomber jacket too. Can I just say?
That you're right, because that might be the iconic look too. In the Smithsonian one day there won't be anything, there won't be a plaque or anything. There'll just be a pair of khakis on a stand with a bomber jacket, and people will go, "This is the Costner exhibit. This is the Costner exhibit."
Chair, Kermit the Frog, and a bomber jacket.
yeah, that's right.
Khakis. Yeah. Oh God.
The movie was nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Screenplay. It lost out to Rain Man, and it was nominated for 2 Golden Globes. Susan Sarandon was nominated for Best Actress in a Comedy. She lost to Melanie Griffith for
Working Girl.
And then it was also nominated for Best Song.
And Melanie Griffith was considered for this movie in that role, but I think either schedules conflicted or she had just come off Working Girl. And so they went with Susan Sarandon, who was we'll keep talking about it. I can't imagine anyone else in this role, just the way she nails that script. So
even though it seems like they wanted anyone but, they had real issues with Susan Sarandon based on the stories that you Google and stuff like that. I was shocked to find out Susan Sarandon was 41 when they made this movie, because it feels well, how old is she now? Kind of one of those I can't imagine. She's, oh my God, she's, this is whatever, 20, and 30, 33 years ago.
And it was a classic Hollywood going, that's too old. What? She would have gone to high school with the opposite two actors. And so we're getting especially in the 80s, but even still now. Yeah. The idea that an actress at 41 would be too old to play a leading love interest is, of course, a symptom of,
or an object of sexual desire. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
And then her and Tim Robbins actually started a relationship on this movie.
Amazing.
Which is incredible. Lasted, 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
All right, we're going to start with our run-through. Obviously, we got the opening monologue, the Church of Baseball.
I believe in the Church of Baseball. I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Siva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I know things. For instance, there are 108 beads in a Catholic rosary, and there are 108 stitches in a baseball. When I learned that, I gave Jesus a chance.
Incredible. Just sets it up right away. We go to the ballpark, and they're waiting for Ebby Lelouch to make his pro debut. They can't find him. He's out having his way with Millie. I I love Millie. Millie's a great character.
Millie's a great character.
Yeah.
A real story arc for Millie. Like a real beginning, middle, and end for Millie, the character.
Yeah. I like that they give that character that much space. We're like, let's not forget about Millie.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in a baseball movie where often you're going to get, so some of our supporting characters that get those kind of beginning, middle, and ends will be, the players around. And I'll say there's definitely characters that I would like, I would have loved a little more exploration of some of the teammates. But I'm not complaining that a lot of that screen time went to Millie because, that was great.
And she's got the great line right away when Annie asks how Lelouch was in bed. And she says, he fucks like he pitches, kind of all over the place. That's great. So, we see Lelouch as this guy with like this cannon of an arm, but can't hit shit, is throwing wild. He's basically just Wild Thing. Like that's just the exact. Did they just write the exact same character twice?
Well, yes, because I think I love Major League, but Major League's a clear ripoff of Bull Durham, almost every way. Like even down to the Jake Taylor and Rene Russo librarian thing. Like,
I was just gonna say,
it's unbelievable how they're 1-for-1. It actually makes me hate Major League more that I loved growing up. I'm like, oh my God, they just ripped off Bull Durham?
Yeah. And then after that game, we get the introduction to our hero, Crash Davis. He's been brought in to mentor this new kid, Lelouch. He's this catcher. His AAA contract's been bought out. And so now he's back in the bus leagues. This is a great scene, too. I love the... like him bragging to Robert Wolber, like, you don't remember me? I tattooed a pitch from you. It's right over center field. It's great. Like we get right away, like Crash Davis, just like this game has chewed him up. He's 12 years in. He's like back at like not the lowest level, but he has not developed at all.
Yeah, pretty much it's single A, right?
He's single A.
Yeah, like
he was in AAA. He was in AAA, and he's been bought out to go babysit.
I think it's technically high A, even though I don't hear anyone say it, because somebody eventually comes up from a lower level. So you have to believe there has to be something underneath.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that. I will say, too, when they introduced Nuke and he throws the ball and he's like, he throws 95 miles per hour. I'm like, what a quaint time baseball was back then. 95.
Yeah.
Like now we're touching 103 and people's arms are falling off their body the second they throw it.
That's right.
Yeah.
The next scene, we've got Lelouch and Crash. Crash gets introduced to Annie at the bar. She's kind of scoping out who her boy for the season will be. She picks a guy every season, and she's interested in Crash, but he's not really biting. He's a little bit more reserved. He's kind of too old to play the doting game.
Yeah. He doesn't chase. That's
he
kind
don't
of
chase.
Stance. You don't chase.
I love too that she's there hanging out with Max Patkin, the
real Max Patkin.
Yeah, the crown prince of baseball.
The clown prince.
Clown prince of baseball. Sorry,
yes. Who is like the basis for like Dancing Homer, essentially.
Yeah,
like that episode of Simpsons.
A really interesting Wikipedia article. If anyone who ever wants to check that out, like I had to look up. I'm like, who is this guy? Why do they keep showing him? And you're like, oh my God, this is fascinating. Like he's like, I never missed a day of work in 40 years. And you're like, oh wow, that's incredible.
And if there's one person who I wish had a come back at the end, I don't need a whole character arc, but he's just kind of in the beginning, and we don't see him again. Do we?
There's a deleted scene. He was supposed to die.
Oh,
there's a funeral scene for him that was edited out. Yeah, I don't think that was needed, but I don't need an arc. I just need him. I just need to see him cheering one more time. But yeah, the reason there's one scene where Susan Sarandon is wearing like a veil. A black veil at one of the games, and that's supposed to have been like the first game without Max at it.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
God.
There we go. So he had the arc.
There you go.
That's the arc. Yeah.
The arc. Floor. Millie gets a wedding. Max gets a funeral.
This was a C plot of this movie, and they're like, well, and I'm like, without Max dying, is there a heart to this movie? I don't even know anymore.
Exactly. What's it all for? Lelouch basically challenges Crash to a fight outside over Annie. Crash doesn't want to go. This scene is this is so iconic.
Good. Oh my God!
So Crash refusing to fight him, saying, "I'm not going to throw the first punch." Throws him a ball. Go here, Lelouch. Hit me with this. Got the great line like, "You couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat."
So
it is the most humiliating thing you could have ever done. Even if he kicked the shit out of him in front of his teammates, wouldn't have been as bad. It said, do your job. I bet you can't. Just getting into his head. Misses him by 15 feet.
He really misses.
He really
misses.
And
you know, the way the shot is composed, like you just see that old frosted glass like door, and it's so good because it's like it's an example of like you don't have to surprise me. Like I know exactly what's about to happen, but it's so good and satisfying when he just blasts the window of the door, and that Costner just doesn't even flinch, like that he had no doubt this guy was not even going to be able to like whiff it by his ear.
There was nothing more relatable to me than when Tim Robbins misses, knew he was going to miss, and then looks down and just goes, fuck. And I'm like, everybody that's ever done anything in athletics has gone, fuck.
That's exactly right.
I love it.
Tim Robbins is really, really underappreciated in this movie. Like, he is so good. Like, it's a tightrope character to walk, like to not be hateable, to be this cocky, arrogant guy who also kind of sucks. But he's just really he's really charming. You're like that. I can see why this guy has gotten as far as he is just on his charm and his one skill he has, which he kind of only barely has at this point.
Because he goes from being like in these early scenes where they're fighting over, and they have the fight where you set up like, okay, so it's a sports movie, so this guy's going to be the antagonist for at least 90% of the movie, and maybe they'll have a reconciliation, redemption moment at the end. But I think his performance is great because he goes from being the antagonist to then just being a foil, and then not only not hateable, but actually, especially in his final scene that we'll get to with Crash in the pool hall, very likable in that scene. Actually, like quite likable. And obviously, it's a good script, but I think that it mostly has to do with, like you said, Tim Robbins walks that fine line in the performance.
Well, you know what? To explain Nuke a little bit too is like I couldn't find anything about this, but while watching it, the whole time I kept thinking, man, this guy reminds me of there was a baseball pitcher named Bill Spaceman Lee. Okay.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And he's still.
I got a story about Bill Spaceman Lee, but I'll let you go first.
This is a comparison because I couldn't find anyone saying that there are like a 1-to-1 or it drew inspiration from, because a lot of Nuke reminds me a lot of Spaceman, who is kind of out there with his thinking, and they kind of touch on that a little bit when Nuke is talking to the reporters, and when he's kind of like talking, when he's playing the guitar, and like he has other interests that, you know, maybe he's on drugs, maybe he's like he has other interests that he does stuff with, and it's like, and they don't really touch on it too much, but I'm like, man, that feels a lot like Bill Spaceman Lee.
Yeah, my Bill Lee story has nothing to do with Bull Durham. I played at a music festival in Montreal that had like musicians baseball tournament, like hardball tournament, and they had celebrity guests on each team, and I was really stoked because my team had George Laraque, who was an Edmonton Oiler, Montreal Canadian. I'm a huge Edmonton Oilers fan. I was so stoked. I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
Appeared in the movie Goon, which also has a lot of parallels with this movie.
Exactly. Another great minor league sports movie. I was stoked being on George Laraque's team until I realized that the other team's celebrity guest was Bill Spaceman Lee.
Actual baseball player.
And guess what? He wasn't playing first base. He was fucking pitching, and he was throwing heat all game. He struck out everyone and didn't give a shit. Like, we lost 1-0.
So you did not get a hit off a major leaguer. That's not how this story ends.
No, I had not at all. No, I swung wildly and missed.
I would love the idea that the one guy that gets the hit, and the next time he comes up back, he like gets brushed back by a pitch. Like he's like, he's here to win. Like, you hit me, you fucker.
So Bill Lee, the guys pitching on my team were like musicians, not baseball pitchers. And so I think they walked Bill Lee, and then Bill Lee was on first, and my buddy Keith, with a fucking 70-year-old Bill Lee on first, bunted. So I did get Bill Lee out at second. I was playing second, and then Keith was the winning run in that inning. They won 1-0, and Bill Lee after the game said that was a horseshit bunt. You stole my run.
I was just gonna say, what a guy to piss off like during a game.
Yeah, exactly.
A guy who did not mince words about a number of topics throughout his career.
Yeah, so that's my Bill Lee story. That's my tangent.
So we're 2 degrees of separation from this movie. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so, Costner, after Lelouch misses wildly, punches out Nuke, says, "Hey, man, I'm your new catcher. Nice to join the team." Mm-hmm. Annie takes both the men home to decide which one she's going to do. Pick for the season. Tim Robbins in this is just fucking great. Like,
so good.
This is obviously has like one of the biggest Costner moments in probably his career.
Yeah.
But Robbins just constantly being like, "Are we gonna fuck or what?" Like,
the energy that he brings, like where you have kind of exactly like the two sort of veterans sort of romancing each other between Crash and Annie, and then you've just got like young stud, like guy who's never been turned down basically in his like whatever small town he came from, and now being like a big fish in a small pond, is just looking around being like, so like, when is this happening?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're going on these philosophies and pontificating about life and romance, and he's just ready to bone. Like, as soon as possible.
He's ready to have a threesome with his new catcher right away.
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
Like when they're fighting, he's probably like not understanding what's happening, going like, "So the threesome on, I just don't taking his socks off or something." Yeah.
And then of course we have Costner. He kind of says, "You know what? I'm 12 years into my career. I don't believe in trying out anymore." And Annie asks, "What do you believe?" And he's got iconic speech: the "I believe in the soul, the cock, the pussy, the small of the woman's back."
Well, I believe in the soul, the cock, the pussy, the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, that the novels of Susan Sontag are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, opening your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. Good night.
Friggin' great writing. Way to go, Ron Shelton.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it right away from that opening monologue, then the narration, that the script is the standout strength behind the scenes of this movie. Yeah,
for sure. It also plays into the highlights that they showed before, the like Jackie Robinson stealing home and Vita Blue and a couple of the pictures like looking up, which eventually played off later and stuff like that. Like everything was chosen very, very carefully. Thurman Munson, who eventually dies in a plane crash, that Annie Savoy's got a little like shrine to in her place.
Yeah,
like,
and that's how the movie ends.
There's little things that they touch in there, and you're like, man, that's pretty good. Like much more. You could have done a little bit less, and no one would have complained, but doing that a little bit more really like shows the quality of the movie.
Yeah, it's a love letter to baseball, no doubt.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's a fine line between, and some of the reviews I read did have this criticism of like, I feel like I'm listening to a writer try to like inject his poetry into his characters' mouths that shouldn't be there. But I don't think that's true. Like, I think Costner and Sarandon are so good that you buy it.
Yeah.
And it's not given
exactly.
it's not given to everybody,
Exactly. Right. It's justified in those two characters. Like, you don't have a monologue where Nuke pontificates, and in fact, quite the opposite. Like in his final interview, like at the end of the movie, he's just hitting on the reporter and talking about like doing all the right. Well, I'm just here to play the game, and it's a game where you catch and you throw, and he's just regurgitating stuff that he's learned, which is like fun because it shows you can see there is growth from his first one where he's talking to the reporters in the clubhouse.
It's far out there.
I don't know what to say. It was really out there.
It's kind of radical in a tubular kind of way.
yeah. Like I think that's much like we will see in Ron McAvoy and
Roy
Kevin
McAvoy.
Costner, Roy, and Kevin Costner and Rene Russo later in Tin Cup. Like I buy that these characters take it so seriously that they have like this. I mean, and that's how it's set up with Annie too. Like this is her religion. These are her. These are her prayers. These are her psalms. And so I don't agree with that criticism at all, because there's nothing about this movie that seems contrived or condescending. It's down in the dirt, baby.
Yeah. I think it has a good handle on the subject it's trying to speak about. If you want to, inject words that are unnecessary into characters' mouths, that's called Aaron Sorkinism. And,
that's
everybody is the smartest person in the room and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I love Sorkin, problems and all sometimes. But it's like, I'd rather hang out with smart people. And you know what? I'm here for a baseball movie. And these two characters are talking very passionately about baseball and very intelligently. Well, why would I have a problem with that? I'm okay with that. I feel the same way they do about baseball. So that's good.
Yeah. So we keep going here. So Crash walks out, and there's just a great moment too when he walks out as she goes after him. Where it's the briefest moment, because then he walks out of frame, but you just see as she's calling after him, you see the smile like come across his face. Like it worked to perfection. Like I knew exactly what I was doing, and
And then Nuke is just like, I want you bad.
It's so great. Their energy, as a foil here is just, and honestly, then as a foil to Annie throughout this movie as well, just works so well. And it's so great to think of Tim Robbins in this role, and then later this guy would become famous for like the Shawshank Redemption, and just like comparing these two characters as I think again shows what a great performance by Robbins. So they get into bed, but Annie ties him up and just reads him poetry all night, reads him Walt Whitman. And what does he say? She asks him if he knows Walt Whitman. And he goes, "What team does he play for?" Just a great line.
Pitches for the Cosmic All-Stars.
Yeah, that's right. And he comes in the next day looking like so beat up, like he had a bender, but he was just tied up listening to poetry all night. And he says it was more exhausting than having sex. And then they have a game. Annie and Crash end up going to the batting cages to work on Crash's swing. Annie says she's looked up his record. He's only a few home runs, 30 home runs away from the minor league record. He doesn't really have any interest in that record. He calls it would be a dubious record, but she's saying this is something you should be proud of. And Crash tells her that she only wants he's not Nuke yet at this point, only wants Lelouch because she can control him, and she couldn't handle just being his equal, which is why she's going for Lelouch instead of Crash. Just again a great scene where we're taking it outside to a batting cage, but outside the baseball stadium, and we're just seeing the relationship develop. And it's a great moment where basically she says when it comes to the baseball season, like, I'm monogamous. And so it sets up a great tension for the movie where you're like, okay, they're not just going to get together. This isn't a movie where it's going to be a love triangle for the whole time.
Right.
Yeah. What's great about this setup is like the idea like of this triangle is like, we've got the two equals who are equals. You're like, oh, they're supposed to get together, but really they're on opposing of like the different advice they're supposed to impart on Nuke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which they say, like, they're both there to mentor him. Yeah.
Yes. And so they're competing in that, but also in love. But Kevin Costner in this, when he like just walks past the like over the plate and then turns around and bats one, like,
oh, so good
with one arm, and you're like, cool guy. It was so casual. You know what the thing is, to be like super basic about this that I don't like is that I love that Annie Savoy is constantly giving them notes on like, your back got straight, like look at this kind of stuff. Because that's a real thing. You watch enough baseball, you start seeing that kind of stuff. That's totally, I love that Annie is that educated of a character. Then when we got her in the box, she looked like she was trying to chop down a tree with an axe. And I was like,
yeah.
And she's turning around
going, might not have,
your hips are not swinging. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if you're the person you should listen to this time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm totally with you. And I think getting them out and developing the relationship outside of a baseball stadium, or when Crash is in a jersey, I think is like super important to the end payoff. So it's great.
Yeah. He's in his trademark khakis right there.
Yeah. He's got the uniform
dingers.
His second uniform, yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of come to this, not an impasse, but just almost kind of come to this understanding at the end of the scene. I'm not chasing you. Well, I'm not giving in to you. Okay. And then we get into really seeing Crash and Lelouch in a game together, and Lelouch just shaking off all these pitches.
Yeah.
Basically, he's a guy who just wants to like prove himself by, it seems like, only throwing fastballs like all the time. Like,
why is he calling for a curveball? I want to bring heat. Shake him off. Throw what you want.
God damn it. Time out. Hey! Why are you shaking me off? Huh?
I want to bring the heater to announce my presence with authority.
To announce your what?
To announce my presence with authority.
To announce your fucking presence with authority? This guy's a first ball fastball
Like, he's just Mariano Rivera. Like, I'm just going to be a one-pitch pitcher.
Announce his presence with authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you want to what? I want to announce my presence with authority.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so good.
And then what I love, which becomes a running thing in this movie, is you figure in most movies you just have the hubris will be the downfall itself and go like, oh well, obviously like that's a terrible idea and this guy's gonna woof it. But Crash is also like a vindictive dick who goes back and he tells the batter what's about to come. So he does this extra, which is I think great that you're left wondering in both occasions where this comes up, where you're like, I mean, maybe he would have got it by, but we won't know because he was totally sabotaged by his own teammate.
Yeah, and I love that he Crash's like motivation. Like, what does he care if this guy goes to the show? What does he care? Like, he's like probably he's gone like he's been brought down to the to single A, like career basically over. Like, it's my job to do what? I don't know. Like, try to get this guy ready, but I'm not going to get him ready by him like padding bullshit stats. And I love when he gives that guy and he hits the dinger and then he just like yells at him immediately afterward. It's just like so
I gave
right
you a
of
gift
like,
and that's how you talk to me?
Yeah.
Home run for Bert Brooks, Fayetteville General.
What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing standing here? I give you a gift. You stand here, show up my pitcher. Run, dummy!
You stand there and show up my pitcher?
It's so good.
It's like it's that great like that code of like in sports of like, don't try to show me up. Like,
see, yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that because the difference between the juxtaposition between Nuke and Crash, I think, is really important because Crash just seems like he tried to do it the right way all the time. You don't know if that's true.
Yes.
We didn't see it. He just worked on ethic, and that's how he got. He wasn't naturally talented. And then he stares at a guy that's naturally talented and is wasting it. And it could not infuriate him more that he's just like, you're the opposite of me. You just need 1 ounce of what I have. Oh, yeah, it's so good. But the other one is, okay, this is going to be a recurring thing as we go on from this moment on. I was like, okay, I'm glad he did this, but like, is Crash just an asshole though? Like, I understand he's helping him. He thinks he's helping him, but constantly I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, he does this move a couple times. Like, which is also great that like, this exact move is not learned the first time.
Because also, what is he teaching him? Don't disagree with me? Like, I don't know, you know?
I think he's basically teaching him like, your shit's not good enough. Don't like, I'm here to help you. I can only help you if you listen to me.
Yeah.
And I will sabotage you if you don't, because I don't give a shit.
Exactly. I think, and you basically like see right here, like he doesn't, because listen, he comes like he doesn't want to do this job. Like he's a guy who he wanted to be in the show, and he as he arrives, he's pissed that he's become like he doesn't want to be the mentor. He doesn't even want to have a record in minor league. Like he just doesn't want to be here. I actually kind of like that there's some ambiguity. Is it because he just wants to stay playing baseball? Is it because deep down, like he looks at this guy and I think there is some of that where he's like, he does want to see this guy succeed, even and not as a validation of himself. And if he is helpful, what I like is he always does do it in a dickish way. Like, I mean, even his first lesson, his Sean Connery on the bridge untouchables moment is after he one punches him into the ground in that bar scene. And he's like, that's your first lesson, and he puts his hand out and he helps him up. And so I think that's again what makes him likable as a character, and it's just a very Costner thing that. I don't know. Costner can just get away with doing some of these things where you just be like, I'm out on this guy, but he's just got a charm about him.
It's so true because there's a line that comes right around where we're talking here, where he asks for time at the bat, and the bat boy comes out and goes like, get a hit, Crash, and he goes, shut up,
shut up, to a like 10-year-old ball
to the bat boy, and then when he turns around and laughs, he's like, that's kind of funny. Like, I just told that kid to shut up.
That's so good. Shut up.
God, that made me laugh.
This poor kid. The kids who are also trading notes between like that have.
Let's fuck sometime.
Yeah, exactly. And he's sending tips, and then him sending that back. Don't read that, kid. It's kind of personal. Like, oh my god.
I love that because there is a little note there, and if you stop and read it, Crash writes, "Let's fuck."
You can totally see what he writes. But when it gets back to Betty, it says he wants to make love to you.
He has to read it and censor it so good.
So then this is another little bit of a growth moment. Then, of course, where he gets showed up right there. And after the guy crushes it, we start to see kind of the shift. We go back to Annie and Lelouch, and Annie wants him to wear her garters under his uniform to help him think of her instead of thinking of the game and overthinking the batters and being insecure. Again, it's like her whole thing at the beginning is like she's like, I give them confidence, and so it's like this totem that he's literally going to have on his person to remind him that like he should be confident. And I think it's great here too, because then you think, especially with that first. That moment of him learning on the field, and they're going on this road trip. You're like, okay, so here's where we'll start to see something change. Nope, they have just like an awful, they don't win a game on the road trip. Basically, the announcer, who I love, the announcer. I've really seen him in other movies. Yeah, he's basically Dusty Rhodes in the booth. He's got that voice. And he says it's the worst team he's seen in half a century. They just go on this horrible road trip where everybody sucks. Basically, Crash is getting some hits, getting some dingers, but everybody sucks basically.
The called dinger where he's on the trip and he goes, if he throws that junk again, I am going to crush it. And he says that to the bench and then turns and backs them. I'm like, that was one of those scenes where I'm like, okay, so this is the payoff to him being an asshole. It's like, if I'm going to be arrogant about it, at least I can show the talent side of it to back it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually like that.
And his charm when he just like turns back to the bench and like slaps his face like,
great moment.
What did I say? He's got the same moment when like, I don't know if it's in the scene before or later when Nuke finally starts pitching what he's calling, and he just kind of stands up and goes like, there he is.
He puts his hands in the air.
Yeah, like that's a strike.
Something I want to talk about as we continue on here, but like there's a very weird thing that they do here. So like, first of all, I love when they go into in baseball action, because the camera becomes handheld and you could see them walking around.
Totally,
with it. It's choppy and fun and more actiony. And the other one is they make a clear decision to say that Crash's thoughts are inside his head in a voicemail. But
yes, that's right. Where they do close-ups on him so you can see this is an inner monologue.
But Nuke's thoughts are all out loud. He just talks out loud. And so I was thinking, I'm like, that's really odd. They could have done one or the other, or maybe they're trying to show the difference in these characters. I was just like, man, that's really odd, because that whole last little pitching of Nuke, he is talking aloud the whole time. And I was thinking,
I kind of think that maybe that is what they're doing. I didn't really notice that at the time, but the way you point that out is great. Like, because that does show this dichotomy between the characters. Like, here's a guy who's got something going on inside, but Crash is wears everything on his sleeve, like externally processes everything, because he's not a guy with a lot going on.
Lelouch, No, I think a lot of the, like, I mean, if we want to go into like the meaning of the movie is like, if we want,
what is this, a podcast about movies?
Is that what we're supposed to do?
The big questions at the end. What does this movie mean? What is?
But it's a movie about belief, right? And like about something getting you through. And there's a line of like that Annie has about the world was made for people without self-awareness, that we're born without self-awareness, like and that I think as time goes on, someone like Crash, he only has time to analyze everything in his career that hasn't worked out the way he's wanted it to.
Right.
Whereas like Nuke doesn't have thoughts. It's like, just don't think. It can only hurt the ball club. Just throw the ball, like, and you'll be great.
And it's perfect because, like, in the sport of baseball, you've got nothing but time to think about those things. It's like they say this later. This is a non-time based game. Like, this is a game where half the game you're sitting on the bench and you're either just thinking about what just happened or what's about to happen. So I think it's kind of perfect because baseball, more than any other sport, lends itself to that. Which is personally why I think why for me. Like, baseball movies for me have always been the best, like, character stories, the best where we can really go inside somebody's head. And I think that's a huge thing about what makes Crash work as a character, even, like we said, even when he's being an asshole, and even then what makes Nuke work as a character, even though he's like hotshot dick. Whereas right through the whole movie, you're seeing those redeemable pieces about Nuke. Whereas to think about again a similar dynamic in the movie Goon with like the young hotshot who basically until Sean William Scott's character wins him over is just a totally irredeemable asshole. But we see we see both Crash and Annie working on Lelouch through the film, and you do see those developments in quite a realistic way, where he doesn't become a paramour or a brilliant, like, he's not going to go and read poetry after this ever. No. But he does grow as a person to the point where you're like, he might be able to hack it in the show.
Oh, totally. It's so funny. And to have a cerebral character, of course, be a catcher. That makes total sense. The catcher has to do everything. Yeah. Not only do they have to deal with the pitcher, they have to do defense. They bat as well. It would be the smartest position on the field because you have to know the most. Also, you brought up Goon. Now it's making me hate Major League even more. Old Jake Taylor, the catcher. Young Rick Vaughn, the pitcher. God damn it. I've been had this. My whole life's a lie.
With apologies, with apologies to Major League, but you're not wrong.
Oh, also, just right around this part of the movie, we get the really lazy stereotype of a Caribbean person being into voodoo, which is also from Major League as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we've got the same racism happening in both movies. I did think of that too, where I was like, this is Dennis Haysbert in Major League right now. But at least they don't dwell on it as much. It's not as much a caricature, but I could do without.
It's not the B plot for the whole movie. Yeah, no,
exactly. So Annie gives Nuke some pitching lessons. This is a great running thing where they keep talking about through the whole and I keep wanting to say Arliss.
Robert Wool.
Robert Wool is talking about later where she's telling him to breathe through his eyelids, like the lava lizards of the Galapagos Islands.
I love that.
Which is so great. And then later, like when he's starting to lose it at one time, I can't remember if it's Robert Wool or someone just goes, I think he's breathing through the wrong eyelid. It's just a great line.
Yeah, and Costner's later when he goes in there like, what's going on? And he's like, well, his eyelids are blocked up.
That's right. Oh, great running joke. So she's trying to kind of give him all these tools and tricks for how to relax, how to be confident. Again, he just wants to jump in a bed. Like he just wants to go to the bone zone. And again, we're just seeing the slow progression of his character, but also a really great. We see in Annie like this resolute character who has like this endurance, even though this guy is not picking it up, and we've just been on the terrible road trip. Like, he hasn't turned things around. And so Annie tells him to hold on to his sexual energy and rechannel it into his pitching. So basically, like, they're going to go celibate until he can, break through here. Lelouch finally decides he's going to wear the garter. He says it'll keep his focus on the right side of his brain.
No, I mean it. That's very hot. Annie says they'll keep one side of my brain occupied while I'm on the mound, thus keeping my brain slightly off center, which is where it should be for artists and pitchers.
Which is clearly like he's just saying what he's just regurgitating what he heard her say to him. Yeah. Which again, I think the script is just so tight. Yeah. Because again, we see that then happen at the end of the movie, and it's like I buy that. That's what this guy did. It's like he's not an idiot. Like he can hear something and go like, okay, I get that. But he's not able to apply this in a way. So he's just going. Like, I will just regurgitate.
You say if you say so. And I love Kevin Costner just like adjusting the garter belt and being like, Rose goes at the front, big guy.
Yeah, that's right. Which is a great moment where you go like, did he also like go through this, or is he just he's just a smart guy? So he refuses to pitch to Crash's calls and gets burned again. And this is where he finally flips the switch and starts going with Crash. And then that's the turning point for the whole team. And this is where they start to go on a winning streak.
I love the line that Costner's got after he shakes him off again. And he just says to the batter, like,
this son of a bitch is throwing a 2-hit shutout. He's shaking me off. You believe that shit? Charlie, Here comes the deuce. And when you speak of me, speak well.
When you speak of me, speak of me well.
Speak of me well, yeah.
That's so good.
And the guy loves it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
I was holding it like an egg. Well, that's good because he scrambled that sucker.
Oh, yeah. And when he comes up to the man, he's like, you told him again? He goes, yeah.
He knows.
Should have seen that coming, yeah.
Yeah, I love like the baseball like mound. There's like 3 times they go to the mound together, and each scene is just so great. They're all
every time he takes time, and really leading into like one of the harder times I laughed too is the really big time where everybody in the infield is hanging out for seemingly minutes, and Robert Wool has to come out into the mound to go like, what the hell's going on out here? And he's like, he hasn't picked what his wedding gift's going to be. Like, candlestick holders are really good. And
that's a great line.
Yeah, it's like, when he's like, his eyelids are jammed. We need a live rooster. We're dealing with some shit here.
Maybe she's registered somewhere.
Yeah, Robert Wall is like, that guy should have. He was like really big in this era, but I want to see him in stuff like I want him to have his own HBO show. Like, I love that guy. Did he?
Well, that's what Arliss is.
I never seen it. I just was like smiling and nodding.
I was like, well, he did have exactly what you're saying right now. Yeah, he ran for like 8 seasons. He's great in Arliss.
Was it good?
Yeah, he plays a sports agent. Yeah, I've never really watched it, but people love Arliss, and I think he's great. So.
It also becomes a running joke, like Arliss. Like it lasted like 5 seasons somehow.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, Arliss, Robert Wool.
What have I been doing with myself? Watching too much Costner, I'll tell you.
Exactly. Watching Bull Durham.
Yeah, and then after this, the Bulls go on their big winning streak after finally Nuke starts rechanneling that sexual energy and pitching what Crash calls. You know, we get scenes of Crash giving him like the interview pointers. This is where we get like the interview pointers. We see like Lucius finally like listening to Costner. It's like, oh, he's got some tips. And this is basically when Lucius tells Crash that Annie's upset because he won't sleep with her while they're on the street because he wants to rechannel the energy, and Annie's getting all fed up. He's like, well, don't do anything that keep doing what you're doing. We're on a streak. You cannot sleep with her now.
But it's great because it's played in this way where like he's at least half saying it because he wants the girl and he doesn't want this guy. So he's just like, absolutely, you should not sleep with her. Yeah. Like it could all fall apart, man. And like, and so even if I believe that Crash does have a little bit of that superstition, which we do see him, he gets the beads like rubbed on his bat at one point. Like I take this much more as he's like, oh, perfect. I've got a way to just like keep them out of bed with each other for a while. Yeah. And then, we've got Annie trying to seduce Lou. He won't bite. He's like, you're trying to get in my head. You're trying to seduce me. He's like, well, yeah, obviously. and like, I like this scene because we finally get to see like the underbelly side of like who this Annie person is. Like we see her desperation of like, aren't I attractive? Aren't I pretty? Like as that aging woman who's like, am I getting too old for this? The same way Costner's going, am I getting too old for this? Like it's a really well written mirror of her going, oh, this isn't actually giving me what it used to of being the belle of the ball. Which is why it's so stupid that they would go, is this actress too old? Because that's like the fact that she is a little older is part of the character. Like that she's the vet on this side of the field. Like she's been around the block, and then she goes to that thing in the script. So it would actually make no sense to have like, I don't know, like 33-year-old Kim Basinger in this role. Yeah. Like, another person that they wanted to offer it to. Like,
well, it wouldn't it make sense to have like, and Susan Sarandon is absolutely beautiful and absolutely endearing in this movie, but it's like, it wouldn't make any sense to have prime of their life like supermodel where you're going like, am I unattractive? And you're like, are you out of your mind? What are you living in this small town for?
Because that's the dichotomy with her and Betty or Debbie. Like, and you see her like, well, Debbie is the up and coming kind of version of this, and then kind of goes a different direction. But yeah, like you need that dichotomy where she's the Crash Davis to like that Debbie. She's the veteran. She's the older kind of sibling figure here.
Yeah. And then this scene I think is like, this might be my favorite scene between Crash and Annie when Annie goes to Crash's place and just kind of yells at him like, "Who are you to keep him out of my bed?" And he's like, "I didn't do anything." He's like, "You got him breathing on the wrong eyelid." I love that line too. And just him being like, I didn't tell him not to sleep with you. I told him to respect the streak.
I never told him to stay out of your bed.
You did.
I told him that a player on a streak has to respect the streak.
Fine.
You know why? Because they don't happen very often.
Right.
If you believe you're playing well because you're getting laid, or because you're not getting laid, or because you wear women's underwear, then you are. And you should know that.
You're pitching well because you're wearing women's underwear, or you're not sleeping with somebody, or whatever it is, you are. Like, that is it. And it goes to the same as kind of racist of a trope as it is. At least it has a little bit of thematic purpose of when he's like doing his voodoo on his bat, and the other guy's like, "Can you give me something?" He's like, "You don't believe, man. You're desperate. There's a difference."
Right. And talking about the superstition in baseball, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, totally.
It's great. And then that's the moment they have where like, oh, these two actually really want each other, and she's like, "I want you," and he's like, I gotta get out. The sexual chemistry is boiling over in these two, but they both kind of leave the scene. Next, the Durham Bulls have like this terrible game. This is where we have everybody going to the mound because of Lelouch's blocked up eyelids and Jose's got a hex on his glove. And then Crash misses a tag, and he has his big blowout with the umpire. He said it was a cocksucking call, and it's like, what was that? Did you call me a cocksucker? I was like, no, but I will if you want me to. He does, and he gets thrown out of the game. And I wondered if this is how I interpret it. I think he got too close to being with Annie, and so he purposely gets himself thrown out so that they lose. So that little Nuke and her can sleep together, and he can take a step back from that.
Maybe I don't know. What do you think? I didn't notice that, but that could be true.
Well, the only way I was thinking about this was I also believe that like Annie doesn't sleep with him during the winning streak because she's also developing feelings for Crash, even though she has like primal urges where she's like, I gotta get laid. Okay, whatever. She's clearly falling in love with Crash, and so that's why because the payoff to me is that in the beginning when Crash gets up to bat and he has to take time because he goes, oh my God, this woman's getting in my head. I think it's like the same thing on the other side now that we're seeing it. But it also is going to like the incredible baseball tradition of just say those magic words. Just tell me those. Say a few words to me and I'll kick you out. And he's like, I'll say them. You're gone. Okay, perfect. It's so performative. I love it.
And I love that the Millie and Annie are listening over the radio, and the announcer's like, he called them something empires don't want to be called. I was like, must have called him a cocksucker.
So good.
Does he miss the tag?
I don't know.
It looks like, I mean, really? To me, I was like, I thought he got that tag.
I think it's well shot enough that it is like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. The angle of the camera, I'm like, I don't know, but I was like, I thought he did get him.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I actually wanted to rewatch it to find out like it matters, but is because I like that they build the anticipation of like you see Crash toss his helmet because he knows the throw's coming in, and you're like, your heart does skip a little bit. You're like, ooh, here we go, and it's like, I love that thing where, and especially too, it's a little romantic now. Like we need more romanticism in baseball, but everything's reviewed now in every sport, right? And we stop all the time to take.
Yeah.
This was kind of fun. They were like, "Yeah, what are you going to do? He made a bad call." It's like, "Well, I'm going to scream at him." It's like, "All right, sounds good."
And then after this, Lelouch shows up at Annie's house with his dad, but also wanting to have a quickie. Like it's like,
his dad, who in the previous scene had like a true 1980s like home video camera, which is the size of like a TV camera, it's on his shoulder, and then his dad shows up at the door to his like to and clearly because exactly as soon as he shows up, he's like, he's gonna want to have sex with her. And he brought his dad.
And his dad goes, I'm so glad he found a nice Christian woman. It's like,
Whoa. Let's say a prayer. Let's not.
I also love that Costner, when he asks like Lelouch what's wrong on the mound, he's like, oh, my dad's here. He's like, and he says, he's just your old man. He's just as full of shit as anybody else.
That's a great line.
No one saying your dad's full of shit, because we all find that out at some point, And then while Lelouch is there, he gets the call that he's been called up to the majors. Now, is it weird that he goes straight from A-ball to the majors? Yes. Okay.
I mean, I know it's a Hollywood movie, but the idea of that they were on like a 2-week winning streak in single A, where again, he's a pitcher. So it's not like, this isn't like a first baseman who's just crushing every pitch. Like, he's not playing every game in this winning streak either.
Right. Yeah.
And in the span of maybe a month and a half max, they're like, you're gonna leapfrog right into maybe the Cincinnati Reds. We're not sure.
It's like in Every Given Sunday when the lead quarterback goes down, and then so Jamie Foxx gets called in, and he becomes like this mega star. But you're like, he's played 2 games. Like he had played 2 games at that point, and he's like got a rap video, and you're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if everybody's full into this.
When did you film this? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I'm glad you brought that up, because a pitcher would not move up that fast. First of all, we never see another pitcher on the team, which is, I get that, one of the main characters is one of the pitchers. You never see another pitcher on the team. This is back in the day of four people rotations. So what's really funny to me, though, is moving up. Like, it was not 3 months ago that his first start, he had 18 walks and 18 strikeouts. 18 walks. I think that might be, he says it's a record, but holy God, that's a record. Like, I can't believe that. And then they're like, he's good enough for the major leagues. Like, whoa.
Exactly. Yeah.
No risk here.
This guy who has his whole thing is command issues. Like, he's gotten like the idea in baseball of like, you have a few good weeks and you're like, all right, you're ready for the major leagues. Like, that's the opposite of what is true. Like, no. That's why single, double, AAA is a thing.
Yeah, there's legitimately 5 to 6 leagues under Major League Baseball for a reason. It's not just like a collection of talent. It's so you move up, sequentially.
Moving on here, Lelouch wants to go, and he's said his goodbye to Annie, along with his dad, who's also there for this moment, and wants to have a quick prayer. And Annie's like, let's not. Lelouch, so he goes. He wants to go find Crash. This is a nitpicky thing. It has to be the same night, because he says he's leaving the next morning. Yeah. He's dressed in completely different clothes in this scene, and not like he went from the suit that he was, the post-game suit that he was wearing. He's in like khakis and a nice shirt. Like, he didn't just get into his sweats for the night or something. So that was a little bit of a weird continuity point.
I have a way bigger nit to pick on this one.
Oh, go for it.
So they're in a pool hall. Have you guys noticed that only one of the tables has holes in it?
No.
Only one of the tables has pockets. Only the table Costner is playing at has pockets.
That's hilarious.
All the other ones are just completely flat green.
So this was a set. Okay. So there you go. Like I said, this is definitely just a built set. This is because that's awesome.
They're not real pool tables.
Not noticed that.
Yeah,
we should throw up a picture of that on the Instagram. So he goes to see Crash. Crash is as surly as an already surly guy could be, and he's been in the pool hall. He's been drinking, and again, I think this is a great moment where we see. This is the most mature Lelouch from the guy who was nicknamed Nuke because I don't think we even mentioned this. He's nicknamed Nuke because Annie goes, this kid's a nuclear meltdown. Yeah. This is the most mature that he sees him. He goes out of his way to go, I want to come and thank you, which essentially is implicitly admitting like, I needed your help. It's not just, hey, it was nice playing with you and getting to know you. Like, he goes there to thank him. So that's a huge, I think that's a great point where we really see the character development. But Crash has been drinking, and he's just pissed off about everything, about his career, about the situation with Annie. And I think to a point too where even upon hearing of the success, even though I personally think that Crash does want to see this guy succeed, but that the inner conflict of the human heart, right? Where it's like you do, but you don't, because it also is like, it's also a reminder to Crash, this guy's going to the show and not me. And not only am I not going, the best I became was somebody who helped somebody else get there. Yeah. So he's more pissed. It's the fight that we see earlier in the movie. That's where he's controlled. He's the one that he's Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse in that moment, where
be nice.
Oh my God, we've got to review that. This is one of my favorite movies. Holy shit, Roadhouse is incredible. So good. But here we see he's drunk, and he's the one that's out of control. And a great callback when he goes to have his hand Lelouch is going like, I want to thank you. He's pushed him off. And then he starts taunting him. He starts wanting to pick a fight with him. And Lelouch, again, it being way more mature, is the guy walking away from the fight, going like, and then he has a great line that is so realistic where it's like, I can't remember. He says like, I would have gone to the show. It's like, you weren't shit, man. Like, just basically calling him out.
Yeah. He said, I'll send you a postcard. And he's like, hey, I went to the show. I don't need a postcard. And
you didn't go to shit.
This is also when I was like, okay, so Crash is an asshole, and I understand the point of the scene is for him to be an asshole, but not in that way. It was in the other way of saying, so the proprietor of the bar, a former baseball player, right?
Yeah. A legend that he says. This guy's had a career.
He's like, and he's rhyming numbers off the top of his head saying, look at this guy, he was so good. Yeah. And then pretty much goes like,
numbers.
And then pretty much just goes, hey, fuck off. Because then he just brushes him aside and terrorizes his bar.
Exactly.
Well, he throws the pool bar. It's the pool ball. It's a nice
callback
to the first.
Yeah.
And Adam,
he breaks a mirror the way he broke the window. Yeah.
We mentioned in our No Way Out episode of things that'll get you kicked out of a bar.
Yeah, that's right. We should have that as a running one, too.
This is one of them. This is one of the things that'll get you kicked out of a bar. At least in this one, the owner did go, hey, dude, that's my bar. Like, don't fucking break my shit.
It was so, he literally turns to him and goes, hey, which is very realistic. But then they kind of make up and walk out together. And I'm like, guys, we still got some business to
I know you're his buddy, but you can't trash my bar. You can't walk in here and don't worry about it, man. Like, there's glass all over my floor, man. Clean it up.
Hey, you probably have a bill. Do you guys want to no? All right, see you guys later. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Costner does have the great that speech about do you know what the difference between 250 and 300 is?
You know what the difference between hitting 250 and 300 is? It's 25 hits. 25 hits and 500 at-bats is 50 points, okay? There's 6 months in a season. That's about 25 weeks. That means if you get just one extra flare a week, just one, a gork, you get a ground ball, you get a ground ball with eyes, you get a dying quail. Just one more dying quail a week, and you're in Yankee Stadium.
I think that's exactly what I was saying before about this guy has had too much time to think and go, if I just hit one here and that's
all the what ifs. Yeah.
And this comes back in the next scene when he kind of apologizes in the locker room. And he says, you got to play this game with fear and arrogance. It's both. You have to be so cocky, but you also know that it's not up to you in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have supreme confidence and also recognize that 90% of this is outside your control.
If you start dwelling the same way that the guy who wanted Jose to bless his bat, I've got a big 0, I'm 0 for 16. If you start thinking that, you're doomed. And Nuke isn't going to think. Nuke is just going to go out there and
exactly. Throw. Which is a great point. Which then is this implicitly lends to what his strength is. It's he. Everybody's going to be insecure, but he's not going to be a guy who will overthink and overanalyze, which can be the death of baseball players. And actually, even as you said that, Cam, the idea of you have to be confident in your ability and also recognize that most of this is actually outside your control. For as the two of us who came up as artists, specifically in the film acting industry, that is so much of what I experienced and then what the experience is, which is you got to believe in yourself. You got to have confidence. And you also got to recognize at the end of the day, this is going to come down to so many factors outside your control. I think there's a lot of, industries and vocations and pathways where that's kind of the name of the game. And so I think, again, that's what lends this movie. It's a great point specifically about baseball, about that one hit a week. But it's what universalizes this.
Yeah. And it's also kind of a hey buddy, it's kind of I could have been a contender speech. But you didn't hit one more fucking ground ball with eyes. You didn't. So get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the locker room, come to terms speech, the last the last scene they have together is really great. And I love the Costner, the apology, like, I've been known to howl at the moon. Perfect.
Does Gardner Barnes say that line in Fandango? Because I was like, that. I feel like that line is straight out of Fandango.
Yeah. That was so good. But just highlighting all the differences between them, that the reason why Nuke will probably succeed is because he doesn't get in his head, and the reason why when we're introduced to Crash Davis at the plate for the first time, he can't get out of his head, and he's like, swing, and he strikes out, and you're just like, because if you're thinking like that, you're never going to succeed. But it's somewhere in the balance between the two that he'll succeed somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So around the same time, or kind of just after that, Lelouch gets the call and leaves and gets called up. Crash gets released from his contract. He walks in the office. They have a good scene earlier where someone else gets released, where they set up, like, so you know exactly what's happening. That when he asks them to when he says shut the door behind you, and they're you can see and
he says, like, this is the hardest part of a manager's job.
Exactly, yeah.
When he started with,
you see Arliss's face. Yeah, and you know what's coming. And it's great because especially in this moment, even more than the other one, you can see they're genuinely. That neither of them as managers like want this to happen. They genuinely like and respect, and he's a great guy to have on the team. But he gets released from his contract. They have a new, and again, a great reason that they give the reason why too. That it's not just you came here to help the kid, and now the kid is out. There's a young new prospect coming up. So once again, he's got to face him being. Not over the hill, but in his mind probably like he has the insecurity of like, I'm the over the hill guy, and here's another young guy who's now coming to take my spot. So just great that and just very realistic again that this isn't rookie of the year or sorry, rookie of the year. I was thinking the rookie, rookie of the year. Again, also a great movie. This isn't the rookie where it's this happy ending or this a walk-on player who lights it up. This is who he is, and this is also the way the game is played. Like what have you done for me lately? And there's somebody coming up to replace you.
Totally, and I think that's what punctuates the emotion of that is that it's not because you suck. It's not because you're playing poorly. It's not anything. Yeah. It's just you're a byproduct. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, which is almost exactly. It's more maddening.
It's basically like you're a company man now. You're an employee. Exactly. Like, and Annie has it like it. Baseball's a game. It's a religion, but it's also just a job.
It's a job. People. Yeah.
It hurts just more to not matter. Like, it's not that I'm good. It's not that I'm bad. It's we don't care, and it's like, that is the worst.
Which also goes to like, why not tell the batter that he's throwing heat? Because this team isn't trying to win. Like, nobody's trying to win. Like,
And a great theme that actually I feel like is there underneath a lot of sports movies, but doesn't get, like you said, kind of emphasized or articulated in this way, where you look at that for these major league players or for professional players, like it is also their job. And what is that? It's one thing to go, you're the star of the company or you're the franchise player. But for the guy who, when we see in a bit, when he just goes to try and to finish his season out and find another team that's looking for a catcher, that it's not. I love that it has that wrinkle that it's not just the trope that works well, but it's not just the trope of he's a guy who he has to stay in the game, like he's got to be on the field. There's that element to it where he wants, he does want to get that record and he does want to finish the season, but just the way he drives across the country just looking for work basically. And I just thought that's a great nuance to the scene that I haven't really seen explored in other sports movies.
Yeah, and so then, this is rounding the end. Like we said at the top of the podcast, we just slide into some nice love making for the last act of the movie.
The climax is not the big game.
No, and it's not even like a grand romantic gesture either. It's just him going, "I got released. Let's do this." So we doing this? Remember that note that said "Let's fuck sometime"? Now is sometime.
Yeah. God. And it's really, like in this baseball movie that is incredibly baseball centric and is 90% of the time on screen, the last 15 minutes are like drippingly erotic. Like it's just
it's an interesting choice.
Bedroom and It's, you know what? Very similar to another minor league movie in Slapshot. The whole movie ends with dancing. But you know what? I will say it is some of Susan Sarandon's best work in the whole movie is in this end when she's vulnerable, possibly for the first time, looking at him saying like, "Am I worth staying for? Am I just, or is it just about baseball?" Yeah. And oh God, your heart breaks for her in that moment.
Yeah. So when he, they make love for days, and then he leaves a note. To go play for the Tourists. I love minor league baseball team names too. Mm-hmm. Like the Tourists, fucking great.
Tourists, beautiful. Clearly the California Angels at the time, just beautiful. And actually, so much so that I wanted to look up some of these minor league baseball team names. There is a team in Alabama called the Alabama Biscuits. And the Biscuits.
That's
and
great.
First of all, they have an adorable mascot. You can imagine what it looks like. And this month, for Korean Heritage Month, they're changing their whole scheme this whole month for the Alabama kimchi. And by the way, I've never desperately wanted to buy a hat and jersey. I was like, holy crap, that looks awesome. The kimchi.
I love kimchi fries.
There we go.
So Costner goes and plays gets his new job for the Tourists, and we see he hits that last career record dinger, and nobody knows. We got the monologue from Susan Sarandon, the reporters didn't write anything about it. Nobody noticed it. Like maybe someday someone will look up that this guy's got the record.
And she says, I knew as soon as he did it. She noticed, which is also just a great staple to their relationship, and also it's totally in character for her, where she loves this.
I think it's also good to show that growth of that guy who's yes, I've got to move on. I know I'm washing out of this, but let me do this one thing on my terms. I don't even care about the record, but it'll just let me put it to bed, and then I can move on. And he comes back, and like you said, her tenderness, she's in tears, and he's like, there might be a manager position. Do you think I'd be good? She's like, I think you'd be great. It's she's happy he's back, and it's this really good moment of the two of them seeing each other and seeing they're we're tired, we want each other. This is enough. This kind of this identity that we've created for ourselves, it's now over.
Yeah, this season of life is over, and that's the beautiful part is that even though it's neither of them probably lived that season of life to what they wanted, and so there's a part where they're making peace with that, but also in just the fact that as any good romance has is where when they find each other. That becomes all that really matters at the end of the day now.
Yeah, and that's the end of the movie. It's a Stone Cold classic.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Then a little payoff at the end with the dancing that I was kind of talking about, because when he goes, I don't dance, and then it shows that he dances, showing progression of character. So it's
look,
that's what it's about.
Good thing we got Andrew here to go deeper than just the IMDb like we usually do.
That is a good a line she has when she asks if he'll dance. He's like, I don't dance. He says, how embarrassing. I think that's a really funny way to that's lame. That's so dumb that you don't dance.
By the way, that dance scene too, did you read on the trivia thing that the dance scene was choreographed by Paula Abdul?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and she's credited as special thanks. In the credits, special thanks to Paula Abdul. And I don't know if this is true, but apparently Paula Abdul thought she would get one line to do. She'd be given a one-liner to do the choreography, and nope.
I mean,
how do you? That doesn't fit in this movie.
Ron Shelton, which is not in this movie. I didn't make that deal.
No. I also that doesn't make any sense. It's I got to make dinner tonight. Let's get Wolfgang Puck. There's barely dancing in this movie.
Yeah, not worth it. I think Tim Robbins could have probably figured out those moves without Paula. Drum.
Yeah.
Best review, worst review. Some good reviews on this movie.
A little bit. Lay it on us.
Yeah, we don't got any Sheila today. We got Hal Hinson from the Washington Post. This is the best review I could find. This is Shelton's first film as a director, and at times his staging of scenes is awkward, but he's a fully developed scenarist with a wonderfully organic sense of comedy, and the strength of the writing, plus his assurance with his characters, carries us over any rough spots. He's assisted by nearly flawless performances from his actors. And he says of Costner, for once Costner has a role that he can sink into that fits his skills, and he shows enormous authority and charm. Physically, it's a marvelous incarnation. He swings well from both sides of the plate and even has a good home run trot. He's totally in his jock character's body. And with this one performance, he emerges as a true star presence.
Wow.
I think he nails it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard to argue on that one. Like, wow, that was really good. And really, like, some of the stuff we talked about, like, not only about the movie itself as, like, a cinema, but also, like, yeah, you got to nail the sports stuff. And he did. He looked like a baseball player. Yeah.
And I think, too, like, Costner had up until now, like, even with Untouchables, was kind of considered a little flat. And, No Way Out was considered, like, a really big step forward, but it's still kind of him trying out Hollywood leading man. Right. This is just like, I'm good at doing this. There's something I got that most people don't have for this movie. And then the worst review from Janet Maslin of the New York Times.
The Times.
Dialogue that's strange to be colorful, indiscriminately piled on pop songs, plot developments that aren't followed through on, and minor aspects of motivation that are never known. Brash, but a little unsteady in his directing debut feature, Mr. Shelton has a way of overstating some things about these characters and leaving others bafflingly unsaid. Yeah. Which I fucking disagree with entirely.
Like we said, I that's okay, fine. If you wanted the criticism that, you have these pontificating moments that don't necessarily sound realistic, like, okay, sure. But again, I think you can't separate that from the fact that these characters are incredibly well fleshed out, incredibly developed.
Yes.
The only characters that aren't are some teammates, like the idea of like Jimmy, just basically he's a guy with a Bible who wants to lead a prayer group, and then you're like, oh, he's getting together with like the very sexually liberated Debbie. The trope that I'm expecting is like that's going to pull him like way off the Bible study and like way out of the church, and but actually it somehow kind of doesn't even necessarily go the other way, but it's like that they fall in love. So if there's one character, I would say like I wanted to like one more scene with Jimmy just to flesh that out a little bit. But like when it comes to the core, like to the trio, I think it's ridiculous to say, like, oh, some things are left unsaid. No, I think some things are left up to the audience's interpretation, which is what a good story does.
Exactly.
I think the only one that I was like, okay, all right, was it in the very famous, What It Is to Be About Baseball in the one of the scenes where they're first at Annie's house. He does say the words, "I don't believe in quantum physics when it comes to matter of the heart," and I was like, huh. Okay. And it was like, and then it was surrounded by like true poetry, but then he says that and I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Yeah.
We can nitpick all we want, but I was just, something about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I'll give you that one, Janet Maslin of the New York Times.
It would take us an hour and a half to go through every single person who is considered, especially for Crash and Annie, but just, I'm not jumping ahead here, Cam.
No, that's good. This is great content, Adam. You're doing great.
This is prime content. That's what it's about. I mean, it's about infinite content, so maybe we should do an episode for each of these people. So Alec Baldwin, Tom Berenger, going back to all the
platoon,
Major League,
Man, well, exactly. I was thinking Major League, but Harrison Ford, Richard Gere, Mel Gibson, Tommy Lee Jones, Michael Keaton. A lot of the names we've seen come up for a lot of the roles.
The leading men of the day.
Yeah. Can I say my favorite? Just to imagine this movie, Christopher Lambert.
Oh my God.
Which would have been like. And I love Highlander. I think we talked about this before. Also love him as Raiden in Mortal Kombat. But
I want to see Christopher Lambert throw a baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I've seen him throw bolts of lightning.
If you can find me the Crash Davis audition tape for Christopher Lambert, like I am into it.
That would be incredible.
Give that to me because it's got to be good. Like I want to see him deliver the "I believe in the cock, the pussy" speech.
Totally. Oh my God. We need someone with impressions to come on and do that. Like in that way that Christopher Lambert things come out of his mouth and you're not sure if he knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a kind of magic. Stephen Lang, Bill Paxton, Ron Perlman, Dennis Quaid, which would have been very interesting.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid is the budget Kevin Costner. Like we all know that, right?
Wasn't he the rookie that you were talking about earlier?
He was the rookie. Yeah,
exactly.
The titular rookie.
And this one I'm going, really, IMDb? I don't know. It says Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And those ones I'm like, that seems like a stretch. But a couple others like Nick Nolte. And, of course, the one that I think is the one that I go the most who could have Kevin'd is Kurt Russell.
For sure.
And I think, obviously, this is Costner Podcast. I think this movie thrives on who Costner is, but I could absolutely see Kurt Russell nailing this role.
I think Kurt Russell was the guy that was developing the script. Kurt Russell also, if anyone hasn't seen The Battered Bastards of Baseball, great documentary from 2015 about the last independent minor league baseball team. Yeah. I think it was the Portland Mavericks. Kurt Russell's dad owned that team.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And Kurt Russell, I think, did play minor league ball at one point.
Yeah, he played minor league baseball. Yeah, and then his son, Wyatt Russell, was like a hockey player or something like that because he was
he was a goalie.
Yes.
He's in Goon 2.
Goon 2, that's what it is. And he's also in John Linklater's follow-up to Dazed and Confused where it's all about baseball. Everybody Wants Some, I think it's called. And and that movie's fantastic. So it's like, real athletics in that genes. But yeah, Kurt Russell, former minor league baseball player, kind of I could see it.
Yeah, I think Kurt Russell definitely knows that minor league world very well and would have been great.
So Costner and Kurt Russell, who would have an interesting next decade essentially, where not necessarily competing, but they would basically do competing projects. Like in 93 and 94, they're both playing Wyatt Earp in Tombstone and Wyatt Earp, respectively. They were together in 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Yes, right.
Right. Russell replaced Costner as Ace Woody in Django Unchained, which is funny to think that Costner was originally slated to be in that. But then Russell's character was removed from the final cut, and then they both play the father of a superhero when we have Kevin Costner as Clark Kent in Man of Steel, and we've got Russell as Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
I was thinking little dance that they had throughout their career. But
I do love though. You pull up the IMDb for Kevin Costner, and they're like the last one is like Snyder Cut, and you're like, what? Why? Oh, John.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot. As vocal line. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if we'll be sticking that one in at the tail end of
no. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't have much interest in watching.
And apparently Charlie Sheen also was up for Lush, so that even makes me more like it's just Wild Thing.
Yeah, and he didn't take it because he was doing a baseball movie, but not Major League. He was doing 8 Men Out. Yeah, I know. It's
Black Sox scandal.
Yeah, the movie that was killed basically by Field of Dreams.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's basically about the same
thing,
same team.
They handled the same stuff. Yeah.
And Annie also had just a ton of people. Can't even go through. We mentioned Melanie Griffith, Gina Davis, Isabella Rossellini, Kate Capshaw, Kelly McGillis from Top Gun.
Kelly McGillis would have been good. I think she would have been good.
I want to see the version of this movie with Christopher Lambert and Isabella Rossellini.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Heart of
Anthony
America.
Michael Hall as the third. Isabella Rossellini, Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, that's gonna take a real left turn. Could have taken a real left turn. Apparently, too, Anthony Michael Hall as the guy the studio wanted, and Ron Shelton had to basically
trying to walk off the set.
Yeah. It's gotta suck to be the actor that the director is threatening to just drop his fucking dream project if you're attached to it.
Yeah. Yes. Nothing against Anthony Michael Hall, but I get it. You don't just want teen 80s actor here. Tim Robbins' character might look a little old for this. I mean, I guess he's only 29 in the in actual life, but he nails the role, and he needs somebody like we said who doesn't just come off as a heel. But actually has that likability and can make that pivot from being an antagonist to a foil to a friend while still being at the end of the day, there's still not much going on between this guy's ears.
All right, the Kevin in memoriam. Okay. What's making it?
Which we always do this, and we could just say this is the Lifetime Achievement Oscar because they also do that.
Do we have
to say that he's dead at this point?
Yep.
He's never coming on now. Yeah, Andrew, what do you think? What's the iconic scene that they'll play in the reel?
Well, you know what? If it depends where they're playing it. If it's going to be at the Oscars in memoriam, I don't think they can play the cock, the pussy, and the smell of the small woman's back.
Just that, but just totally bleeped.
Yes, exactly. The blank. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I wonder what he said. That probably is the most iconic
for sure
part of the movie, because it's talking about the heart of baseball, which is really at the heart of this movie because of minor league baseball. But I think the other side is, maybe to me, when he's drunk acting is hard, and he talks about the spray blooper, that's the difference between staying in the show or not staying in the show, and the agonizing that character feels over it. I think that is like a 15-second clip that you really can use, and you get,
I agree.
You get the perfect example of what this movie is entirely.
Yeah. For me, I think if it's not the cock, the pussy, the small woman's back. This is what I'm going to call it from now on. It's the cock, it's the pussy, it's the small woman's back. I think it's him. The first time he throws tells the guy he's throwing heat, and just walks like, wow, he really smacked the shit out of that one. I think that's got to be, he hit the goddamn bull. he won a steak.
I would probably go with the one hit a week, like Andrew, but just to throw something different, I would say not that scene that you just named, Cam, but how does he say it? Speak well of me when they ask. When he gives the guy the pitch later in the movie.
And when you speak of me, speak well.
Yeah, exactly.
Without even looking up at him. That's the best. Just looking right dead at Nuke and saying this all to the pitcher, to the batter. Oh, so good.
Or the shot when he hits the dinger and he looks back at the dugout and puts his hands on his face.
Yeah, because it's going to be a montage, so it's just going to be little snippets of moments.
Just smash cuts. Yeah.
What about you've got your memorabilia Hall of Fame, your museum of Costner. What from this movie are you putting in?
A lot to choose from here. I think it's so easy to say the jersey, because it's
a great jersey.
It's a great jersey. Framing a jersey is not like a crazy thing where you'd be like, what the hell is this? Like if I had his glove or something.
The real Durham Bulls, number 8 is a retired number.
Oh, really?
Because of this?
Because of this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wonder how many fictional characters have their numbers retired.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
37 is not retired. Nuke Lelouch, you can still wear 37.
Poor Nuke.
Maybe, you know what? Actually, here's my answer for the memorabilia. The note he writes Annie Savoy. You could put that in a little frame, you'd be like, what the hell is that? And you're like, I have a good story. Let me tell you, which is the point of memorabilia in general.
You're not talking the note at the end of the movie. You're talking earlier in the movie. The dugout
note. The note that the kid can't read out loud. Yeah.
Because I was gonna say you could do like the bull. Like the bull.
I'm putting the bull. I want the bull.
Okay, then I would say the bull or the garters would be like the iconic movie memorabilia.
The garters are good too. Yeah,
he does touch the garters when he fixes it for him. Right?
I mean, it could be anything in the movie, but I think just like the bull, hit the bull, win a steak. That's got to be in the museum for sure.
That's great. I wish that was a thing.
That. You got a free steak.
All right, and MVP of this movie, Andrew. What do you think?
I think it has to be Susan Sarandon as Annie Savoy. I really think.
Oh damn!
In a lot of ways, this could be a trope or an archetype, or in a lot of bad ways, maybe a stereotype of a female character that is not secure in her own beliefs. But never for a second do you believe that Annie Savoy is completely in control of her entire direction. And I think that's why it pays off at the end when she opens herself up and went. I am self-conscious maybe for the first time about who I am and where I'm going. I need you to, reach out to me. You talked about all this casting that could have been. In other hands, this could be a really bad part of the movie.
I totally agree. It's definitely handled by her. Yeah.
It's that confidence and absolute sultriness, and that combination of both of them really work. And so I'd say the MVP is Susan Sarandon as Annie Savoy.
Yeah.
This is a woman who's who's reading poetry, but doesn't come off pretentious at all. Mm-hmm. You never once get the sense of this is this unrelatable character, or they're so high and mighty, because she's so authentic in everything she does, and the love she has for art, for poetry, for baseball, and for these people who she genuinely is I'm giving them something that will last a lifetime. You believe all of that, and so you're behind her 100%. I agree. I think in someone else's hands, I think it could totally derail this movie, and instead she elevates it.
Yeah,
so it's a great choice.
Adam, for you.
Yeah, I wanted to go with Ron Shelton, the writer. I think that his writing is stronger than his direction, and I think as much as I like at the end of the movie that it doesn't end with the big game, that it goes in that different direction, I think there's a little bit of pacing issues with with the 15 minutes of eroticism into the into him like showing up on the porch. I want to give it to Ron Shelton as because it's such an incredible script. But actually, Andrew persuaded me there. I think that Susan Sarandon is the MVP. I think all three of them are incredible together, and it's highlighted by just that scene where they're all in her apartment together. Yeah. But I agree. I think that because she in the love triangle is the linchpin between the two of them. I think that the movie could actually be totally derailed if you don't have someone in that role with the care for the character and the dialogue that Susan Sarandon is. Like Susan Sarandon, Costner too, but Susan Sarandon is the main reason why I disagree with those reviews that say like, what are these words coming out of these characters' mouths here? But I think that between the script and the story justifying with the characters and the way Costner and particularly Sarandon deliver these monologues, these are like theater monologues. Totally. I think it's brilliant. So I'm going to go Susan Sarandon.
There we go.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Ron Shelton. I think this is like
wow. So yeah. I was the tiebreaker.
Yeah, there. You were. I think the script is just fucking delightful. I think it's so good, and it set the bar for what a sports movie is. Yeah, broke new ground, and it announced its presence with authority.
He did, yeah. In this debut.
Yeah, I got to go Ron Shelton. All right. We're into the Costner power rankings. The definitive Costner power rankings.
The definitive.
Adam, what's your score? What's your movie score?
I realized that I think I mentioned this last episode, but I haven't yet mentioned it. So, keeping in mind for my score, this is my first time watching this movie. I had never.
Damn.
I know. We did. So I didn't really talk about that. I had never seen this movie before.
Jesus, have you seen any Kevin Costner before you agreed to do this podcast with me? Because I don't think you have.
Ask me. No, we're coming up.
You just know the Postman. That's it. Like I've just seen the Postman.
God. I've seen the hits, except for some of them. So
Jonathan
yeah,
Kent,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I've seen Man of Steel, we're coming up on Field of Dreams, which is like one of my all-time favorite movies. That's coming up next month. So I have seen it. We're getting to Robin Hood. We're getting to Waterworld, baby. Like the hits. They're gonna start coming. I'm gonna have the childhood memories to come. But I'm happy with this because listen, we're getting my fresh take. I have no sentimentality of like watching this as a kid or like growing up as a big baseball fan. This was not one of the movies that I knew. So going in totally fresh, I obviously like you immediately see from that first scene, I see why this is going to be like an iconic sports movie. It's a perfect script as you just mentioned for matters of the heart and for baseball and what baseball is and what great movies. What all great sports movies have, which is we've got to get on board with somebody who at least feels themselves that they're a loser, and the loser and the love of the game, which you have between Costner and Sarandon. Yeah. So for Costner himself in this movie, I'm going to give it a solid 8 because I feel like in No Way Out we break some new ground. We see a different side of him and his versatility, like his chops as an actor. I think we've seen some of the confidence and the quirky charisma that he brings in other movies before. So all of that like works so well, and he's getting even more confident in it. But I'm not going higher than an 8 just because like. I've seen this in Between Gardner Barnes and even a little bit in American Flyers as the guy who could have been. So I'm giving a solid 8 for Costner. And then for the film I'm going 8.5.
8.5. Wow.
Yeah. It doesn't to me. Upon my first watch, I don't I wasn't immediately like, oh, well, this is, like AFI ranks this as like the number one sports movie of all time. And I'm like, I get that. I'm not quibbling with someone else rating that. But for me, it wasn't like, it doesn't stand out as like the most iconic sports movie.
You're revving up for draft day.
I'm revving. You got me. I'm revving up for the scene in Hidden Figures where he smashes stuff with a baseball bat, which I count as a sports movie because
smash is the white only sign. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Pronounces the B in subtle.
Yeah. So love it. I think it's incredible, but I'm going to give it 8 for Costner, 8.5 for the movie.
Andrew, how about you?
Okay, so I think I'm gonna give a 9 for Costner, and it's because
in
my mind, if you said Kevin Costner movies, I say Bull Durham. I think Bull Durham comes first of the Kevin Costner movies that are most resonant to the actor, right? So, and he's been in tons of good movies, and so that's maybe a little short-sighted, but like. This defined a genre of movies. If Die Hard comes out and everything becomes Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a whatever, bus, a speed, whatever. Like
yeah.
This defines sports movies from here on out, partly due to Ron Shelton, of course, but partly due to Kevin Costner. And in other hands, this asshole character, like we're talking about, is just an asshole. And he's not charming at all, and he's not the guy that you want to end up with. I think this is like creating an archetype. So to me, it's like Kevin Costner doesn't get more charming than this because he has to be charming in this movie. It's incredible.
Your Bruce Willis thing is makes a good point too, because you're right. If Bruce Willis has maybe other better performances than Die Hard, maybe, but when you think Bruce Willis, you just think Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah.
And I think this is maybe close to what you would think with Kevin Costner. Bull Durham is at least in the top 5 of like the quintessential, what you would first think of.
Right up there with The Postman. Like it's right. They're right. They're
when
right
I think
there.
Of postal movies. Yeah, I think
exactly. When I think of post-apocalyptic Postman movies, I think of The Postman.
All right, and the movie.
Yeah, the movie. Okay, the movie. Like I said, I think of this as maybe the most resonant movie to an actor to a movie in his career at least. So I think I have to. I'm with Adam. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because I believe Kevin Costner is so clearly the beaming star of this movie and really sets the rest of his career kind of in this trajectory because of it. And while the movie is maybe possibly one of the best sports movies of all time, if not the best sports movie of all time, I still think Kevin Costner that's why he's a 9 and the movie's an 8.5, but it's still a phenomenal movie. Like so phenomenal. Like I'm understating it by saying that.
I love it. I really thought I was going to be like the advocate bringing this, trying to hike the average of this movie up. And now I'm like, whoa, boys, you gone crazy. But I'm not changing my numbers.
You're going to bell curve down, yeah.
No, I'm not changing my numbers. I'm going Costner. I'm going an 8.1.
Okay.
And,
I think that. All
and
right.
on the movie, I'm going 8.2.
Oh.
I forgot
the
we
movie
could
a
go
little higher
beyond
than Costner.
5s. Maybe I should have been more specific, but
yeah. This is with a bullet, our number 1, which I knew it would be. We have a new leader on the leaderboard at 8.38. It overtakes The Untouchables, which was 7.75. Now we'll see.
Actually.
Yeah. I'd say it's a good 5 percentage point, 5 points above The Untouchables.
Right.
Yeah. I think when you think about like just and of course, we love The Untouchables, also an iconic movie. But I think when you look at just the tightness of this, and like you said, the way that it truly sets an archetype for sports movies, for sports characters. I think that, the way it launched, I think really for the 90s sports, I think the way it launches that genre in a certain direction, it does have to stand out, even ahead of another iconic movie like The Untouchables for I agree, how it probably changed the trajectory, not just of Costner's career here, but of what sports movies would become in the 90s. And honestly, to this day.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
To this day. Yeah. And we got another sports movie, iconic sports movie, coming up right next.
I know.
Next month, we've got Field of Dreams. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Yeah.
Again, the host of the Retrograde Podcast, talking video games from our childhood.
And what are
losing money? Sorry, Adam. I'll just finish my fucking sentence.
Oh boy, I gave you all that Bull Durham points, and you're still an asshole. You know, you're not redeemable like Kevin Costner and Crash Davis, okay?
I'm no Crash Davis. I'm that guy who couldn't hit and got fucking cut.
Yeah, you ain't shit, man.
All right. Yeah, Andrew, find you at Retrograde Podcast and Losing Money with Andrew Bascom. Yeah, what are your handles? Where can people find you?
At Losing Money WAB, ding, and then at Retrograde Andy, or at Retrograde Pod, at pretty much everything. But guys, thank you so much for having me on. This is a great podcast. I listen every week, and I'm so glad to be part of such an important movie in Bull Durham. So I can't wait to keep listening and see how that score matches up with everything else.
So flattering because we're monthly. So if you're listening four times to each episode, you're really padding our stats here.
Well, I get 4 in every week.
We're worth 4 listens per episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Andrew. Thanks everybody for listening. See you next week. Month, damn it.
We're talking Costner, tin cup to Silverado, talking Costner, Bodyguard and Fandango. Robin Hood is making the rich pay, going off the board on draft day, talking swing vote, Wyatt Earp and JFK.